والله على كل شيء قدير. إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب. الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض. ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار. صدق الله العظيم. Translation. I seek refuge in Allah from rejected Satan. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. And to Allah belongs the dominion of the heavens and the earth. And Allah has power over all things. Verily, in the creation of the heavens and the earth, and in the alternation of night and day, there are indeed signs for men of understanding. Those who remember Allah always and in prayers, standing, sitting, and lying down on their sides, and think deeply about the creation of the heavens and the earth, saying, Our Lord, you have not created all this without purpose. Glory to you. Exalted are you above all that they associate with you as partners. Give us salvation from the torment of the fire. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning and Assalamu alaikum. It is a matter of great prayer and honor for me to welcome you all on the behalf of Physics Department, Lahore College for Women University, Lahore. These events like webinars, conferences, and symposium have always been a source of motivation among the students and guide them to different fields of research. The Department of Physics has very old history. It was established in 1951. Mrs. Farah Khan was the first head of department. BSc classes were started in 1958 and BSc Honours in 1960. MSc program was started in 1966. PhD program has been successfully launched in 2008. The research activities in the departments were started in the headship of Professor Mrs. Yasmin Ali, which flourished more in tenure of Professor Dr. Rehana Zia. Currently, department enrolls students of 4-year BS program, 2-year MS program and PhD program. Ladies and gentlemen, as you all know that LCWU is doing excel in research and academics under the dynamic leadership of Vice Chancellor Professor Dr. Bushra Mirza. With vast experience of teaching and research, now she is doing wonders in administration by rectifying every discipline of LCWU. It's my pleasure to invite her to open the webinar and say welcome to experts on the forum.
Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to today's webinar, which is titled Nanotechnology in Current Era. No doubt, nanotechnology is a very emerging field, and it is so very important to understand its concepts and its applications. I'm so glad that our physics department is organizing this webinar on such an important topic, and I can see a galaxy of scientists participating in this webinar, not only from within Pakistan, but also from abroad. I wish you all a very productive time during this webinar, and I'm sure it will lead to some very productive collaborations in near future. Again, I congratulate our physics department and I welcome you all to this webinar. Thank you.
I feel honored and glad to announce that meritorious Professor Dr. Mohammad Rahman is here with us. Professor Dr. Mohammad Rahman is a known physicist and researcher with more than 40 years of teaching and research experience at the Department of Physics, University of Engineering and Technology, Lahore, where he also served as chairperson for a very long time. The President of Pakistan conferred upon him the prestigious Izaz-e-Kamal in the education sector on the account of his overall academic distinction for the year 2009. The Higher Education Commission of Pakistan awarded him for the Best Teacher Award for the year 2008 in recognition of his services in the field of research and education. Pakistan Academy of Science also awarded Dr. Khalid Gold Medal in Physics 2011. He has more than 125 research publications in international journals. He has also served as Vice Chancellor of Government College University Lahore. Currently, he is member of Punjab Higher Education Commission and serving as a rector in Green International University Lahore. Sir, please share your ideas with us. He will tell us today the role of nanotechnology in multidisciplinary research.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First of all, I am really thankful to the Vice Chancellor Lahore College for Women University, Dr. Bushra, and also Dr. Zora Kiani, Head of Physics Department, Lahore College for Women University, for inviting me to this great initiative of the Department of Physics. And definitely, credit also goes to your team also. And I'm also very much happy that very eminent scientists and engineers are participating in this webinar. And surely, it will lead towards a good initiative in our college has taken place. So just for introduction, everybody knows about the nanotechnology because it is the need of the time. And In short, I will try to introduce how it can be applied to in multidisciplinary research. We have just seen that the world has given an enormous importance and great attention to this very important wave which is being generated by the research and developments in the nanotechnology area of science and engineering. Broadly speaking, we have biomedical, material science and engineering. Physics surely is leading all of these sciences. Energy efficient world, which is a dream of our today's time. Agriculture, which is being revolutionized by the application of nanotechnology. Security, which is a great concern in variety of areas, starting from the national security to the downsizing, coming up to the level of the individual home. And the biggest issue is our environmental health issues, which are also being addressed by this nanotechnology research initiatives. Next. The biomedical, everybody is familiar with the today's problem and how the biomedical people are collaborating with the physics people and the other sciences. The main area is the detection of cancer, which has now been coming to the stage where it's very easy. You all know that there are always two problems in the biomedical. One is the diagnostics, the other is the therapeutic. As far as the diagnostic is concerned, the semiconductor nanocrystals or quantum dots are playing very vital role because they can withstand the more cycles of excitations than typical organic molecules. So this is how it is becoming the promising area for detection. That is the diagnostic style. The next one is the therapeutic mode of these nanoparticles, which can be used to deliver the targeted sites at the targeted sites. And definitely it will be the more efficient targeted drug delivery as compared to the normal pharmaceutical which are given to the patients by variety of ways. And it can also be used in gene delivery, which is a big issue nowadays. And the scientists have made a lot of success in that. And biomarkers, I told you again, can be used for recognizing the target molecules, dealing with the diagnostics. The very important area is the protein chips. Mainly two areas have been identified by protein chips. One is the chips have been developed by using certain semiconductors and all the concepts which have given there above, quantum dots, for detection and analyzing the bio factors. And a lot of development has been taken place to determine even the proteins. On the other side, a very revolutionary steps has been taken and been studied rather than in Israeli universities, and they have claimed now very recently that certain proteins will be used for developing the materials, nanomaterials, which will be mostly used for replacing the silicon. The biggest problem of silicon, you all know, this is environmental hazards, as well as it also have a problem of the flexibility. So these protein chips, the proteins from the blood, milk, and that of the mucus will be used for developing an electronic circuit, even the transistors. As you all know that the blood has the tendency to absorb oxygen. At the same time, the protein getting from the milk will be used as a fiber for the electronic circuits, and the protein which will be used from will be out of the mucus will be used for keeping up the color dyes as green, blue, and red at a separate, so that it can be used as a white light. You all know what the importance is. So these protein chips are really a revolutionary step, and that you will have the biodegradable screens of your computers, your laptops, your TV, and all other electronic devices, and also the efficiency and the performance in terms of electrical and the optical properties will be very much enhanced by using these protein chips. So I do hope our scientists will also take note of this protein chips technology, which has been claimed now, and definitely more work will be done even at the Pakistan level. And I know many institutions are working on these nanomaterials, so this could be the one of the leading line to them. At the same time, I told you that the biomedical application of this nano material is vast in terms of another area that you can develop, and the processes are underway, and certain success have been reported through the literature that they have developed smart drugs for diseases that normal pharmaceutical cannot target. This is very important for variety of diseases that needed only the targeted cells should be treated, not the neighboring cells should be affected at all. So that is also a great success. The scientists are working on this. And the next important areas in the biomedical side is that of the implants and tissue engineering. A lot of work is being done, and we do hope that our scientists and engineers will also make all efforts to have more and more studies in nanomaterials to be used in implants and tissue engineering. And that is a very promising site. Now the very important areas which is also related, we'll be discussing about physics, is material science and engineering. The field of nanotechnology, as everybody knows, is an area within the materials science spans the discovery, fabrication, characterization, modeling, and end-use nanoscale materials. This is the basic philosophy behind this nanotechnology development. You have noticed that the carbon-based nanomaterials are being developed in form of fluorine. You all know fluorine is a carbon-60 and its derivatives in a mesh form, which can be used to cleave the DNA. I'm talking about the only medical side. The other applications are also such there, and can also act as a carrier for gene therapy, which is very important. So these carbon-based nanomaterials having the fluorine and nanotubes, many our participants must be knowing the nano tubes also of carbon. A variety of uses are there. And also metal-based nanomaterials. In terms of quantum dots, familiar to the world, the meaning of the quantum dots, nano gold, nano silver, and metal oxides are there for having the distinct characteristics, which is being used in variety of issues. The very important materials will being developed is the dendrimers. Dendrimers are highly branched, star-shaped macromolecules with nanometer scale dimensions, and their applications in nano side includes drug delivery, gene transcription, catalysis, photoactivity, and the molecular weight and size determination, which is important in terms of engineering and science. So dendrimers are a promising materials. At the same side, composite of different nanoparticles, for example, nanosides clays are very important candidates to enhance the mechanical, thermal, and flame retardant properties, developing of materials which have a great mechanical strength. And you all know that the nanomaterials are the promising material having more, even 100 times more mechanical strength. And similarly, their thermal and flame retardant properties are also being modified due to the presence of the nano materials. In turn, just linked with that of the material science, physics is also playing a very key role, because it's you all know the importance of physics, and especially the nanophysics is now a new branch of physics which deals with the electrical, chemical, magnetic, cosmic, chemical, and sensor properties of nanomaterials that is purely understood by the studies in physics. So here also comes that the physics in terms of multidisciplinary research is the key branch of science which has to provide the support to these all multidisciplinary sciences where the nanomaterial and nano science is being applied. Synthesis techniques We all know that nanomaterials include top-down and bottom-up techniques. Top-down method includes milling, come down to the metallurgy side also, and while bottom-up includes PVD, CVD, PCVD, and sol gel methods, which are widely used by our students and faculty members in variety. Even chemistry people, they are using all these techniques. And then also nanostructures with above mentioned techniques are again carbon nanotubes, quantum dots, fullerene, nanofoams, and nanocomposite. Quantum dots, nanowires, and nanorods, you all know that they have interesting optical and electrical properties. They have their application in optoelectronics. And this is thanks to this optoelectronics, we are in a Zoom, and we are sharing our ideas, and we are connecting with each other throughout the world. So that is another emerging branch which has its own significance in the overall development at the world level. So optoelectronics applications of nanomaterial is enormous. Similarly, in physics side, quantum confinement is a very important phenomena in semiconductors. In terms of surface plasmon, resonance in some metal particles, and supermagnetism, which is again coming up field in magnetic materials, are very important phenomena which do occur at the nanoscale of materials. This is very important. The supermagnetism is not in an ordinary macro scale. It can only be experienced at the level of nanoscale at all in the materials. Now the very current issue, which always we have a concern, that is energy efficient world. That again it seems to be an important area, but it's also a multidisciplinary approach has to be adopted for developing this energy efficient. So every branch of science has to contribute in a good way. Renewable energy resources are the great concerns, even for the United Nations. They have special cells, and all the other funding agencies are playing very vital role for development of these renewable energy sources. Carbon nanotubes are having high tensile construction materials, and those are being developed to be used in megastructures, starting from the home to the megastructures. Similarly, the nanostructure thermoelectric materials for power supply of mobile electronics. Initially, you know, the battery of a mobile has to be charged, but in fact, separate man was needed to lift up the battery along with the mobile. Nowadays, we have mobiles which are having the battery life for many days. So again, the scientists and engineers are trying to develop nanostructure thermoelectric materials for more and more power supply of mobile electronics. And you all know that these lithium-ion batteries are also being developed for stationary energy storage for a hybrid and the electric cars. Nowadays, these are also a current trends that the cars should be built either wholly electric or in a hybrid form. So they definitely need lithium-ion batteries having more and more energy storage capacity. At the same time, solar cells also used in the buildings. On the side of the environmental side, we can see that the fuel consumption, efficiency, and lesser toxicity towards the environment is also a very, very important area which is being studied by different branches of science. How you can improve the fuel consumption, efficiency, and also the lesser toxicity to save our environment. That is also under the energy efficient world. Now again, the nano engineered lubricants are also being developed, rather have developed at some scale, having higher efficiency of machine gears, offering low resistance, low friction in case of machines, gear, pumps, and fans. So they will also have lubricants of nano engineered lubricants. So that will be another area being studied. Reduction in rolling resistance of vehicles by using nanoscale carbon black in automobile tires is also, now they will be developing tires automobile tires. And you know, automobile industry is a vast industry. So they needed the tires having the lower rolling resistance at all. And definitely in turns, it will improve the fuel consumption efficiency, and in turn, it will have a lesser toxicity towards the environment. And then for the nanoporous insulating is also a promising materials which are being developed and in the development stage, and some has marketed also in the world, which can help the energy reduction, the energy needed to heat or cool the buildings. That is also very, very important. Agriculture. Everybody knows the importance of agriculture and the problems which are being faced in the modern world of agriculture: shortage of water, use of pesticides, use of fertilizers, and they are all in turn concerned with the yield and the safety to be used by the human beings. So in that case, reduction of cost by using engineered nanomaterials, which are called as ENMs, on crop-based agriculture. And they are designed to improve fertilizer efficiency, metal oxide-based ENMs and carbon nanotubes. Here I would like to mention that about 5 years ago, while I was working as a Vice Chancellor in GCU Lahore, we were able and even have a patent in a nano fertilizer, development of a nano fertilizer to be used in the plants, and that have been patented. We have a patent of USA in that. We tried a lot to be implemented in Pakistan, but it's still in that side. So it's a nano fertilizer being developed even at Pakistan. We have a US patent there. So other scientists of Pakistan can also get the lead from us. My colleague with me was the Dr. Akhyar. He is now, it is working in the FC College University. And at the same time, as we talk about medical also, we have developed a nanomedicine, which is quite efficient. And that is, we are also able to get. So everything is possible in Pakistan also, just we have to change. I think we appreciate the effort that by this, definitely the scientists and other students will be getting the lead, how they have to work. So metal oxide based engineered nanomaterials and carbon nanotubes are also being used for improvement of the fertilizer efficiency in agriculture. And they are also engineered nanomaterials are being developed, which are used for coating, seed coating purposes, and also as a spray, leaf spray, that is obviously used for providing the additional protection from pests, soil amendments to offset nitrogen fertilizer inputs, and definitely seed coating is one of the technology with the nanomaterials to increase the germination rates and also the spray to enhance yields. So this is a very important area in agriculture side, which is being now, it is developed through the engineered nanomaterial. So ENM is a very important site. And nanosensors, which are being developed by the material scientists and also the physicists, which are inserted in the form of a chip in plants, can definitely send the signal telling the cause by pest infestation, which is followed by a targeted response. Even in drip irrigation, the sensors are in a way that when you need a water, you can save a lot of water and can provide to the crops, plants. And also in nano capsules, we have the pesticides which can reach the plant when they are needed. So definitely they have a less impact on the environment. Very lesser use will be there for these pesticide in nano capsules. And we have advances in security. You all know that how the cameras are being developed in the modern mobiles. Smart materials are there. They're using microchip technology based on the nanomaterials. Nano manipulators are there. And security is not only concerned with the home, it has variety of applications. Each and every area of the science, engineering and human living is to be safeguarded by the security issues. Nano imaging tools of visualizations, enormous development has taken place, and now definitely we are getting good devices for this. Nano sprayers are used to find even the tiniest trace on the crime scene. This is also a very latest development which has improved to know what are the conditions, what were the conditions, what are the motives, how the crime scene has occurred, so that nanospares are also being used by these all forensic people. In Pakistan also, we have a very good lab in Lahore, Forensic Science Laboratory, and certain universities are offering forensics. It's a new area, but that is definitely supported by these new developments of visualization, and also the microchip industry has made possible to have the best representation of the crime scene. Lab on chip, which is a device which is capable of performing multiple analysis and test using incredibly small compounds. Small amount means obviously efficiency, more and more efficiency, and also no danger to the environment. Another area which is somewhat I have talked in, but that's a need in a separate description also, that is advances in medicine. Ingestible capsules contains nano sensors. You all know that is the nano cameras are there. So the surgeon has access to the areas which was not possible previously, and that will definitely improve the recovery of the patient in a variety of ways. And pill cameras are also ingestible camera pills. The patient takes the pills and whole scenario is projected through the patches worn by the patients, and the doctor sitting even another country can see what is going on, what tests are needed, and how the different organs are working. And dose tracking pills are also contains a sensor which relay. This is all only possible through the nanomaterial visualization processes that are through a patch worn by patients. Nanopolymers are also promising smart drug delivery vectors, which are presently being used, and definitely more and more work will be done in this area. Gold nanoparticles reduces the cell death of neurons. So that is also very important at this stage, and that can improve the old age benefits of the old age people like us. If Pakistani scientists also play their vital role by making innovative research in these areas. Silicon nitride is also presently being capable of inactivating coronavirus 2. So, you know, this coronavirus 2 is before this coronavirus 19. But this is a very important that silicon nitride has the capability of inactivating coronavirus. More research is being done, and this is just reported in August 2020. Let's see how it goes. Again, it's a nano material. So this is somewhat advances in medicine, which is presently being pursued by the scientists and engineers, and this all gives you the reflection of the multidisciplinary approach towards the problem. And now this is definitely a time requirement. We have to have this approach towards the scientific and technological development, that we must adopt a multidisciplinary approach. And during this corona pandemic, you have noticed that multidisciplinary people have gathered together, and we do hope at a variety of levels they are planning to start up the research, especially in medicine, by interdisciplinary approach. Environmental and health safety, I already discussed, but the main target of environmental health safety, you all know, is the reducing energy consumption, pollution, and greenhouse gas emissions has to be reduced. That you all know that there is a protocol by the UNO for acting on these three very important parameters related to the environmental health and safety. Cleaner, more efficient industrial processes are needed to avoid any type of contributing factors toward pollution, and also any type of industrial accidents, including the nuclear accidents. That is also a great concern for the present time world. And remediating environmental damage, that is also very important area. Certain countries are working in a variety of ways. The damage which has occurred due to our own man-made activities has to remediate. So definitely the scientists should take lead also into this area. We are greatly needed for this area of research also, in environmental health and safety. I know many departments have their environmental departments, many universities have got these environmental departments. So they should involve themselves through the physics and electrical people or metallurgy people to remediate this environmental damage, which has already occurred to us. And the very important area is nowadays is the wastewater purification with nano bubbles or nano filtration. And you all know that in Lahore particularly, I can say that the content of the various particulates which are present is needed. Arsenic is one of them. So arsenic, the scientists are trying to develop a nano filters for this. And Lahore area, most of the part of the Lahore area is in danger of these arsenic in water. You all know the river Ravi bed is nearly not having any water. At the same time, most of our agricultural land has been converted into the housing societies, and that has led to the drop of water level, which are in turn is becoming more and more arsenic. So this is a serious issue which needs a attention of the government also to take remedy measures for having these removal of arsenic from our groundwater in Lahore. In textile, again, nanomaterial has their own application. In this sector, water repellences, anti-static properties. To improve that, you need nanomaterials, wrinkle resistance. That is being done, but not at a very large scale, but now the technology is being developed. At the same time, strength enhancement, nanoparticles are used. UV blocking, which is a serious issue, is also to improve the quality of the textile or cloth, which is being used by human beings to have a UV blocking. Then having antibacterial odor control, sensors, such material which can be used as a sensing devices, optical displays. So this is a somewhat use of nanotechnology in textile industry. So you can imagine whatever sector is there, nano has to be implied there. Just to summarize it, all this which I presented to you as just introductory remarks to this webinar, many excellent and many competent scientists are there. They will lead to their technical sides also, and their research which they have performed at various levels. Nanotechnology could bring about the next wave of innovation in science and engineering, which is evident from the present era. The possibilities are endless. As you have noticed, it has the potential to transform science, engineering, aerospace, agriculture, information technology, national defense, transportation, and many other sectors of life. So that is the one point. The next generation of nanomaterials will be obviously stronger, lighter, and more durable than materials. Say I said the display screen have a flexible mode, more and more strength, more in electrical and optical properties than material cars used today in buildings, bridges, airplanes, and automobiles. Nanotechnology also holds a great promise for developing revolutionary tools to help create a more energy efficient world, as just I outlined, such as fuel cells, batteries, and solar panels. And the last, nanotechnology can also provide the solutions for cleaning contaminated soil and water, which is a bigger issue at the moment, and lot of factors are there how the contamination of soil and water shortage is coming up, and it is also expected to play a very critical role in transforming medicine's healthcare. This is the very important area which has to be taken lot of care by the other scientists such as biologists, biomedical people, and together with the physicists, chemists, and also the biology people, botany people, and also the other engineering concerns, mechanical and electrical people, to work in this together to develop this area by using this nanotechnology issues. Thank you very much. But before finalizing it, I would like to say that as I also have the honor to be the member of the Punjab Higher Education Commission. I would like to mention here that Punjab Education Commission has also taken certain initiatives. Quite recently, an advertisement has been published in the newspaper for innovative research support. Innovative mean innovative. I will request all the scientists and engineers to develop an innovative project rather than give more and more emphasis on publishing papers. That has to be now, I think in my opinion, that has to be stopped. Enough has been there and the proposals are there that the scientists will be encouraged and engineers will be encouraged to have the approach of innovative nature. So that is there, and still there is a time and everybody can apply to get this innovative research initiatives taken by Punjab Higher Education Commission. And also we are giving priorities for sending the people who have done quite recently the PhD for the past postdoctorates, and very realistic formula has been developed for sending very fresh PhDs who have done their PhD from Pakistan. They have more and more marks. So the condition is the project should be innovative. So there is a need. I think the main aim of this webinar should be to inculcate all in the science community that please have innovative approach so that we can also make a significant progress in this area of nanotechnology. I am again thankful to all of you for listening me, and also thankful to the Vice Chancellor, Lahore College for Women University, Dr. Bushra, and Dr. Zora Kiani and his team. Really, I congratulate you and wish you every success of this webinar. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.
Thanks a lot, sir, for very informative talk, and thanks a lot for your suggestions which you have get at the end from the Punjab Higher Education Commission. Of course, all our students and faculty members have gained knowledge from your talk. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure now to invite the known nuclear scientist and nanotechnologist, Professor Dr. Anwar. Professor Dr. Anwar is known for his research publications and work in the field of nuclear physics and nanotechnology. His classical research, published in 1963, has been cited in the 50 years till 2020. He has published over 180 publications, including papers in journals and conferences and reports. He has been awarded many national and international awards, whose list is quite long. He received several awards of Stara Imtiaz in 1991 and the last title of Scientist Emeritus by Pakistan Atomic Energy Commission on the retirement in 1996. He is member of editorial boards of several national and international journals. He was chairman of Pakistan Science Foundation from 2005 to 2008. Most importantly, in fall 2010, Dr. Bhatt established the Preston Institute of Nanoscience and Technology of the Preston University, Islamabad, which is the first and only institute in Pakistan and probably in all the Islamic countries, which has produced BS 4 years graduates with multidisciplinary degree in nanoscience, advanced level nano-based courses in biology, physics, chemistry, and material science to help to meet the needs of human resources in Pakistan in this existing technology regarded as industrial revolution. In recent years, Dr. Bhatt is interested in nanomedicines, including fast detection COVID-19 test kits. Presently, Professor Dr. Anwar is serving as chairman of Preston Institute of Nanoscience and Nanotechnology at the Preston University Kohar, Islamabad campus. Sir, please kindly share your views with us. He will be talking on the multidisciplinary degrees in nanoscience and nanotechnology. Sir, mic nahi on aapka. सर माइक ऑन करेंगे आप प्लीज? हम नहीं कर सकते?
Hello, is it okay now?
जी सर अब ठीक है.
Acha. I have some difficulty of uploading my paper, but I sent to Dr. Zora just now the slides. Can she put it on the screen?
Yes sir.
I'm sorry, in the meantime, I can say a few words about my friend Dr. Khalik, who has covered all applications of nanotechnology and set the base for my discussion for the multidisciplinary aspects. Certainly, when 25 years back, I gave a lecture on nanotechnology, the first at FinStech. It was very new, but it has taken about 20 years to get it popular in Pakistan. I'm very happy recently, the Higher Education Commission in Islamabad had a meeting about a year back, and there were about 50 different projects all over the country on various aspects involving physics, chemistry, biology, and many other things. So this is now an era rightly said by Professor Khaliqur Rahman, that now there is sufficient research available, and we should get on to the applications which the world has already done in many fields of physics, chemistry, biology, medicine, and so many fields. So I just get on to the, to save the time, I get on to my discourse. The topic is rightly these days, right from the beginning, when this institute, which has been mentioned, Preston Institute of Nanoscience and Technology, was started in 2010. The idea of was that there should be something which is contemporary to the world. We should have an education. The Vice Chancellor, Dr. Abdul Basit, a very prominent educationist, had the idea that we should have the education in nanoscience and nanotechnology, because this is an emerging field at the time. And therefore, I gave this, I was at the Atomic Energy Commission, but I moved to this private university because this was my interest to get on to further development of this field. So an institute was set up, and fortunately, a faculty of very experienced people retired from Qaeda-Azam University and Atomic Energy Commission were available, and I requested them to join this institute. So the important point was that we had a lot of good experience, and then since it was a new field, not many students came up, and the first students batch in 2010 was 12 students. So it was a very good student to teacher ratio, which is not available anywhere, I think. One professor and 12 students being taught. So anyway, that was the start. So I'll get on to this, this slide projection. How could I change these things? Yeah, this is very quickly, Government College Lahore is my old institution where I did my master's in '57, and then of course moved to Birmingham for my higher studies in nuclear solid state physics at the time. And then of course came back to Princeton and retired in '96. So I'm life scientist of the atomic energy, but then in 2010, I moved to the Preston University. So next slide, please. So next, this government college. I'll just quickly go on. Now, there is the institute. Yeah, can you come back, please? This institute, the Princeton, not many people know, but some who don't know, is the first nuclear institute in the country. And the first reactor in the country was started in 1963. The institute started in 1965, the reactor operator. And this is the main facility. And then now, afterwards, it's a multidisciplinary institute with all subjects of physics, chemistry, engineering, and so on, computers, and so on. So next slide. So I spent about 40 years in this institute. And now currently is this Institute of Nanoscience and Nanotechnology, one of the 7 centers of the Preston University. Preston University is national university and has 7 campuses in the country. It's mainly management and university, but this is the first institute which was for latest science and technology. Next, please. Okay, this is just for certain students who are here. It's just to remind them that nanotechnology is the study, manipulation, control, and the use of nanomaterials and their structures at the nanoscale. And nanoscale is in terms of nanometers, and 1 nanometer is 1/1000th of a meter. And in terms of understanding how the atoms are related to the nanometer size, about 10 atoms make 1 nanometer. So we are dealing with very small things, and we know the human hair is about something like 80 nanometers. So we are now in nanotechnology dealing with materials at very small scale rather than the bulk materials. Next, please. Now, what are the importance of this technology? A lot of applications have been explained by Professor Khalik, but I'll go to the basic things of, because education is involved. There are 2 main reasons of their scientific reason and economic reason, socio-economic reasons. The scientific reason is that when the particle becomes small and we are dealing with small particles of atoms and molecules, the surface to volume ratio, this is important, surface to volume ratio increases enormously. And any property which depends on the surface to volume ratio will be enhanced by using smaller particles. Many applications have been mentioned, but all applications depend on this particular very basic aspect. The surface to volume ratio of small particles is increased, and that property, whether it is absorption gases or it is pollution control or whatever, wherever the surface to volume ratio is involved, whether it is medicine, that property will be enhanced. And then it's the quantum size that we are dealing with quantum science, and therefore the behavior of the physical behavior in quantum level is different than bulk behavior. And the properties, whether it is mechanical, electrical, chemical, all properties change when the particles are of the nanoscale. And then of course, all subjects are involved. It's a multidisciplinary in the sense, physics has atoms dealing, chemistry has atoms dealing, biology has atoms dealing, atoms and molecules. And therefore, it's a multidisciplinary in nature, and will concentrate on its education. And the important aspect is socio-economic. Socio-economic, that means the society has to accept the new things. So one has to deal with the problems of these nanomaterials and their products with respect to the society, their acceptance. And it is highly economical, but all industries are using this nanotechnology. Unfortunately, in Pakistan, I'll discuss, the industry is not coming up, but the world over, the industry is all types of textile industry, medical industry, engineering industry, automobile industry, whatever has been explained recently, all are using this. And therefore, it's a highly economic subject. And therefore, then of course, any new technology has certain risks and damages. And therefore, safety standards are important in dealing with the nanomaterials. And then of course, when you invent new things with new technology, the intellectual property rights come. So these are the socio-economic importance. Next, please. So this explains mathematics for certain students. The surface to volume S over V is 3 over R. R is the inversely proportional to R is the radius of the particle. It's inversely proportional to surface to volume. So this is a mathematical explanation. Surface to volume ratio increases when R is small, radius is small, when the particle is small, and therefore that property will increase. And the graph is, when the particle is small, it's a very high surface to volume value, and then it goes down and so on. Next, please. Next, we'll go to the applications that have been extensively done by Dr. Khalik. Now, I'll just go to some figures. Some people estimate, on this reference, the estimation is something like $1 trillion industry. Our whole CPEC is something like 50 million, not even a trillion, 50 million. And look at this world market of nano products, something like trillions. So it's a huge socio-economic effect on the world market. and something like 2,500 products already of different kinds which have been explained are on the market. And therefore, it's rightly called industrial revolution. And it covers nanotechnology, covers robotics, artificial intelligence, nanotechnology itself, quantum computing, biotechnology, the Internet of Things. There's 3D printing, and it has therefore an effect which is going to be there for next several decades. Next. So this Wall Street Journal is very important economic journal, and they also recorded as the industrial revolution. Next. So the word is now after nanotechnology in the application. Yeah, next. Next. Yeah, you see the rise in the, please. Yeah, you see the word annual rate of increase of investment and products. So it's going from, we are going to, from 2000 in something like in 20 years, from some billions of dollars in marketing, it has come to some trillions world over. So it's a very heavily economic oriented. Next, please. This just shows that in 2000, if there were something like 60,000 workforce, the people involved in the industry, and in 10 years time, they increased 10 times. So the nanotechnology has been creating jobs also as it develops. Next, please. So, there are different methods of making it popular world over. This is very interesting, which is for some years I was interested in this. This is a truck with something like 80 exhibits of nanotechnology. 40 are interactive and 40 are just charts and so on. And this bus is moving in Germany from city to city and making popular this nanotechnology by exhibiting the actual working as in a museum. So, there are many different ways of educating, informal and formal, through museums, to these, all over the world people are doing. So we'll concentrate on formal education, which is our concern today. Next, please. So why there is a education needed in nano? As has been explained, it's a heavily industrial revolution involved. A lot of industries are using, therefore we need a specialized education in industrial aspects of nanotechnology. It is to influence the society for next several decades, 40, 50 years, and therefore it has to be properly educated people available. And then, of course, there are properly qualified human resources needed. Whenever any new technology comes up, to get the maximum benefits of that technology, you must train that human resource in that particular to get the best advantage of their knowledge and applications. Next, please. Yeah, see the multidisciplinarity, all industries are mentioned as has been explained, whether it is cosmetics, biotechnology, environment, pharmaceuticals, health, oil industry, lot of, each one has its own applications, and I've at different times given lectures on different applications in detail. Next. And these are the importance of this, of nano education. You can guess from the websites which are available for different aspects of, and from different organizations and societies. And any different aspect, you can go to the website and see the details, what they are doing word over. Next one. See, a number of, even in the NASA, this space technology of America is using a lot of this. And they have special centers. NASA has a special centers for application in space technology, defense, and satellites, and so on. So education is one very important part of it, and therefore there should be formal educations in different areas, right from schools to colleges to universities. We will deal with the university, but China has already published the books at school level. 9th grade book on nanochemistry is being taught there. So already people are working at lower level teaching, so that the base is important when they come up to the university. And America had a project by the name Nano Professors already completed for during the last 10 years, where they have emphasized the teaching and the practical education at school level. That means metric and intermediate level. Next one, please. So these are the carriers, because it's a multidisciplinary and education of different types is involved. And therefore, there are opportunities for employment on all these areas. You can see about 16 different, and wherever the nanotechnology is used. And there's a big reference site I've given. People can see the details further in this reference site. Next one, please. So nanodegree programs worldwide, there are different kinds: Bachelor of Science, Master of Science, and PhD. So we will concentrate on Bachelor of Science because this is a stage where the entry into service, entry into higher education, entry into industry applications is involved, the basics. So therefore, we started the basic degree of BS, and we'll see how it has been developed at this institute, and what is the output and what is the benefits. The students have got this from the multidisciplinary teaching of 4 subjects: physics, chemistry, biology, material science, and some mathematics. So you see, in Australia, there are 12 places where similar degree of multidisciplinary BS is given. In Canada, 9, and Pakistan, only 1. Next, please. Singapore, and all countries of the world, all over, there were at the time 100 institutions like ours. And therefore, no, at the time when we started, there were about 30, but now current there are over 100. So there is a 3 times increase in nano education at BS level. And of course, at MS and PhD. But BS is the base. So therefore, there are over 100, I recently counted about 112 institutes in the world which are giving multidisciplinary degree at BS level, undergraduate level. Next one, please. So that's the importance. And some of these I mentioned, Drexel University, this is in America, Louisiana, Northwestern, University of California, University of Chicago, Virginia. Next, details you can get on from these. And then of course, in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, Germany, Hamburg, Denmark, Switzerland, America, England, in different fields. So people are giving sometimes biology, chemistry, physics combination. So in fact, chemistry, biology, physics, and material science, this is our type of. So all these institutions are given the multidisciplinary degree at BS level. That is important. Next one, please. So you see this Carleton in Canada and so on, Louisiana. There are different universities, 110 universities giving BS in multidisciplinary science. Next. So you see the all the subjects: engineering, medicine, computer science, material science, biology. We have at this institute combined physics, chemistry, biology, and material science. But a time is going to come in future, and it is a must that all other subjects at undergraduate level should also be combined for some teaching. You see, at the moment we are getting 1 subject, BS physics, but at some advanced level. But when we go down to the 4 subjects, you have to reduce some, but basic quantum mechanics and other important areas are given. So all these basics up to say, let's say 70% or 60% of the physics you teach in 1 subject, you teach here. But this is enough for getting basis of a multidisciplinary degree. And we have seen as a result of the last 10 years production that students coming out of this institute have gone to 9 universities in MS, in nanobiophysics, in material science, in cancers, and so on, because they have a base going to all these various subjects. And next we will see how this usefulness has come out from this institute. Next one, please. So we started with 4-year degree in 2010 at this institute. Next, and the first initiative in Pakistan. No, in the first 2 years, we since it's a multidisciplinary, we get intermediate students of both kinds, pre-medical and pre-engineering. And in the first 2 years, we unfortunately, our medical students do not study mathematics. But since we take both pre-medical and pre-engineering students, in the first 2 years, we teach mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology, at, and pre-engineering students haven't studied biology. So all these are done at the basic level. In 2 years' time, they just become familiar with each other and are equal to each other. And in third year, we have more advanced subjects you will see there are 43 courses. And then in summer, we have internship, which is necessary for a higher education commission. And the important part is 1 full semester is given to research. So this degree has the good teaching and good research. Next, please. And these are the courses, 132 credit hours in all the 4 years we teach. Next. And there are 43 courses. Yes, one thing. You see mathematics, all these, there are different nanochemistry, nanocomposite materials, nanosensors, devices, research methods. Next. Quantum mechanics, nanocatalysis, social impact of nanotechnology. This is psychology of nanoelectronics, and all these subjects. And then there are these social subjects of different. So altogether, 107 credit hours are for scientific subjects, and 25 credit hours are for social sciences as required by Higher Education Commission of Pakistan. And therefore, 132 credit hours is a good degree. Next one, please. Now, there are many success examples in the world, but I quote 2, one from Switzerland and the other from our own institute, PINSET. Next. What is their success story? So they have a multidisciplinary degree in physics, chemistry, and biology. And one of they say that we are convinced that the approach has paid off and that we have developed a sustainable curriculum and alongside with physics, chemistry, and biology with industrial applications. And one of their students has stated, as a founder of this international company, states that the scope of my basic studies helps me to understand the biological and chemical processes of my future customers in industry. So a multidisciplinary person, if he goes to industry, can explain to his customers various aspects of the applications of the industry from the basis he has got in multidisciplinary science. Next, please. Let me go to finish. So this is his success story. Next. Now from PINSET, we have produced about 60 graduates so far in all the 7 batches. 9 countries have taken 35 of our students for MS in different subjects, cancers, advanced materials, you will see. And these students have been taken with full scholarships. That's important. And you are aware that at MS level, scholarships are not available. Because of our degree, which is a 4 subjects basis, at bachelor level, they could get scholarships in MS and then leading to PhD. Next one, please. Sorry, can you put on the screen, please? Yeah, you see, 27 scholarships are at the best institute in nanoscience and of Chinese Academy of Sciences. Tsinghua University, very famous university in China, Shanghai, Beijing University, and 27 students are there with scholarships. And the subjects you see, cancer research, solar cells, battery life, nanocomposites, advanced materials, materials and engineering, biomedical, and so on. South Africa, 5 fellowships were given with full scholarship, travel paid. It's very important, Athemba Labs. In Belgium, the Erasmus Mundus scholarship was won by one of our graduates. In Hong Kong, 2 scholarships in the Department of Mechanical and Electrical Engineering, Nanotechnology. So all areas are covered in this. In Russia, even the Skoltech Institute is a very important institute which has a collaboration with MIT in the United States. And 2 students have got 1 PhD and 1 MS in this. Next one, please. So this is the output of this hours. So apart from these scholarships, some people have got studies on their own, but they are admitted in Germany in nanobiophysics. A student has done MS, Norway, advanced materials, Italy. Look at this textile engineering degree after our BS. So the variety of students available for different specialization. In Leuven, in Belgium, this girl has got a very high level grading of this. And then in Russia, of course. So these are the various outputs as a result of this multidisciplinary degree. And I'll give to certain recommendations later on. Quickly, let us go to the next one, please. So this is another success story from Pakistan. Even, you know, the very interesting thing that our students have got admissions in local universities also, NUST, KUST, IST, ICRA, IIU, Beria, and Punjab, and got the gold medals. Next one, please. You'll see some of their performance. Next, please. You know, this student has published 10 papers during PhD in China. Kamran Amin has got a Director's Scholarship and Outstanding Research Award from China. Shazra Shahzad has won the gold medal from NUST in their MS. Faiza Nadeem from KUST, Roll of Honor from Chancellor. Bakhtar Mahmood, gold medal from Beria University in Management Sciences. Look at the variety, and so on. So this is the, you know, discipline, multidisciplinary degree giving benefits to the future. Next, please. This is a president is giving the gold medal to Bakhtavar from Beria. Next. Mr. Kamran is a final year PhD student, has got 2 awards. The best award from among 13 countries, students who were studying MS in the Academy of Sciences University. 2 awards, outstanding research during MS. Next. Shazra Sarah got gold medal in MS from NUST after doing our BS. Now she is at Tsinghua University doing PhD. Next. Tsinghua is the second best or first best university in China. Now the future, I think, should converge. That means science, we have converged 4 disciplines, but I think at BS level, engineering and social sciences should also be taught so that the students of future are more prepared to deal with the requirement of the time. And nanotechnology will promote the unification of most branches of science, engineering, technology based on unity of nature at the nanoscale, and social sciences curricula for integrated degrees. And this is important. And social ethics, safety and standards and regulations are also to be studied. Next. So let's see in the future. Every technology takes about 50 years to mature. There was vacuum technology, vacuum tubes, then there came the semiconductor technology, and now in an era of nanotechnology from 2000 to 2050. And I think that there's a new already coming up, the pico technology, 1,000 times smaller, and which has enormous applications in small satellites, in medicine, and so on. So this is a new technology which is in the offering, and I think from something like in the next 20, 30 years, this technology will go. Next one. Already, a book has been written on fundamentals of pico science. This book was sent to me a couple of years back for review, and it's already on the book, very big book, dealing with some future aspects, the electronics experiments and pico science, practical, which is applications are involved. It's a good book. Next one. Next, please. And there are, see the pico technology I talked about, smaller things will be coming up, very small satellites of a few grams heaviness will be, there's already making these pico satellites. Next. And these are some of the applications of the pico technology in future based on actually the subatomic, that means the nanoparticles of neutrons and protons, etc., which are smaller in size than the nano, a million times smaller than nano, proton and neutron, the parts of the atom. They will be used as independent as atoms are being used now in the nanotechnology. So that's the pico sciences coming up in future. Next. Recommendations. I think we should focus on multidisciplinary BS and MS nanotechnology degrees in our universities. And I think they have the capacity, they have departments of physics, chemistry, biology. But we were fortunate to have one department, all professors of different specialties at one place. But I think if the university has a certain department which can coordinate different subject teaching in one degree, that is possible. And there is a difficulty of employment in Pakistan of this special degree. But I think we need the approval of the Federal Research Commission of these BS and MS graduate of multidisciplinary degree to teach at higher secondary and intermediate level. If this is there, then the local jobs will also be available, and the people with this degree will be able to teach better in schools and colleges. and which must pass regulation that relevant industries. Industry is not coming up. Is a difficulty, is a different subject I have dealt with over the last 4 or 5 years, but it's a different subject to deal with. But industries must come up to generate economy for the country. And Higher Education Commission, whether of Punjab, and should encourage special PhD scholarships at home and abroad. Next one, please. So this is our faculty. You see all experience with gray hair people. He was the Dean of Faculty at Qaeda University, Professor Emeritus from Qaeda University, Atomic Energy Commission, myself, the former Director General of PINSTEC, biochemist retired from Qaeda, Associate Director General of PINSTEC retired, and Chief Scientist from PINSTEC. So this was my faculty, and that is the fortunate aspect that students have performed so well, got medals, good grades from within home and abroad. Next one. So thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. Thanks, sir, for giving us opportunity, and we are you with us, and we have got very good informative lecture. Now I request audience that if you want to ask something from Professor Dr. Anwar, because you should not miss this chance to learn about nanotechnology. Any MS or PhD student?
I gave some students very early definition simply. But I encourage my students to ask any questions, because that's the enjoyment which the students have been trained. Whatever, as a teacher, I like that people should discuss very, very thoroughly. And we had the pleasure that there were only 12 students and one speaker or lecturer, and we had very good intimate. And that's why these all students are doing very well abroad. And
Yes,
teacher
sir.
relationship is a very important one. So come up if there are certain students sitting there.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. We are very excited to see you in our webinar, and we will look forward to see you in other activities as well.
Recently, I gave a
Thank you
seminar
very
on
much, sir.
technology in Faisalabad. Thank you very much, Dr. Zora, and please convey my regards to the
Hello, Dr. Zora, may I ask a question? Dr.
Yes,
Zora?
yes, please. Yes, please. Yes, please. Ask the question. Anika, please do speak.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Anwar. I am Dr. Anika from Physics Department. I always enjoyed your talk, like before and also today. Just I want to, you beautifully explain actually already that how we can fill the gap of industry and our products, because this is the main using point that we are facing nowadays. Students are doing a lot, teachers are doing a lot, but there's always a gap. So can you just more simplify, or you can just tell the students some key points where they can focus to fill the gap? Just
See,
tell
the first,
students, yes.
actually, you see, let me be clear. I got a contract of from Canada 4 years back of $175,000 to deal with the industrial applications in Pakistan. So
Okay.
we proposed two industries, the foreign exchange earning, that means the textiles and the sports goods. So I took up a team to go to Sialkot twice to address to the Chamber of Commerce. 60 and 70, big businessmen were there. They showed the interest, but somehow this is already 4 or 5 years. Somehow they have not come up. And as I mentioned, there's $1 trillion industries in textiles and all areas of industry. And the students, the difficulty with the students is that within the country, they will not be getting, although, my students are versatile, they're going to management sciences there because they have a good base of a science of 4 subjects and mathematics. And therefore, some people are going to media. For example, the girl which got the gold medal from the president recently did masters in management sciences from Barrier University, and she is now in the media and having her own media company, and so on. So the question is, if the students are given good grounding, they will go to the industry, they will go to the, but unfortunately, we should try, I think Professor Khaliqur Rahman is now the member of the Higher Education Commission. If they can permit the intermediate, they can interview these students of the Shabazz Center in Lahore is producing MS in nanotechnology, and they can get they can give interviews to the Federal Commission or Higher Education Commission if they're able to teach at least, in my opinion, good teaching at inter level and former BSc. Now there's no BSc, there's BS now. So at least at the college level, at intermediate level, FSc, they can teach very well. And I think when the Publisher Commission advertises the vacancies for the lecturers, they should also mention the degrees in BS and MS in nanoscience and technology. And then you will see a lot of students will come up, and this gap, and then of course, after some time, the industry will also take them. And this gap between the employment will also be increasing.
Thank
So
you.
it depends on the education institutions to approve this.
Thank you. Thank
Yes,
you
sir,
so much.
this is the main issue, that when a student go to the Punjab Public Service Commission, if they have not got degree in physics and they have got degree in nanotechnology, then they are sometimes sent back to get equivalence. That's why sometimes people get afraid of getting these degrees.
So this is, but in foreign countries, they get immediately. My students, I mean, one first student has done PhD in China, and he's not being set free. They say, you continue with us. So there's a lot of industry. When I visited this Chinese Academy of Sciences Best Institute in Beijing, and you will be surprised to know they had two projects. There were heaps of batteries, and one laboratory was involved in increasing the life of the batteries, as Dr. Khalik has mentioned. So they were doing they had a contract from the industry. Another very interesting project I saw was coating of nano coating of anti-dust insulators for transmission lines. You know, there are ceramic insulators and high voltage transmission lines. You know, after some years of use, they told me that they get dust and then the sparking occurs and so on. They misbehave. And now they were doing, they said, we have got the contract of the whole China to spray these insulators with the anti-dust, and they were earning a lot of money. So research institutes are heavily involved in the industry in the advanced countries.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
So nice of you that you give us time. Thank you, sir. Okay, thank you, sir. Now I'm going to invite Dr. Mohammad Shabaz Anwar. Dr. Mohammad Shabaz Anwar is a research associate at the Cambridge University. His field of research is quantum heterostructures and devices. He is one of the pioneers of a new field of research, superconducting spintronics. He has received awards of Best Review and Speaker. He has more than 35 publications in international journals with overall impact factor of 150. Thank you so much, Dr. Shabaz Anwar, for joining us. Please share your words with us.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to present my work, particularly in the presence of Professor Dr. Khaliqur Rahman, who was my first supervisor and who trained me to be a scientist. And I'm also actually feeling honored to show my work to Professor Dr. Anwar Sahib, because I remember that in 2004, he actually guided us to Nobel laureate meeting, and where actually we learned a lot about science then, and also that how we actually can be a scientist. So I think I'm not wrong if I claim that I am also one of the students of Sir Anwar Sahib. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Now let's move toward my talk. My talk is about the pathways toward dissipation-less spintronics. So meaning that we want to establish spintronics where we would not have heat dissipations. And this work, which I'm going to show you, it is actually done at 4 different institutes. Firstly, Leiden University, and then Kyoto University, and then London Center for Nanotechnology, and now at University of Cambridge. So during this whole work, actually, these were my collaborators and helpers from Kyoto University, the group of Professor Joshi Maino, and from Korea, the group of Professor Taiwano. And these were actually my students there. And then from Netherlands, Japan, Cambridge, UBC, Canada. And I'm also thankful to the traditions, those always provide us the theories to explain our results from Germany, Italy, and Japan. So we know that actually now we are living in an era of COVID-19, and because of the COVID-19, everything has been, you can say, closed, and we are forced to work at home. And working at home is, in principle, is not so easy. It's quite tough because there could be many other issues and problems. But one thing that we actually learned here, that everyone is actually using the internet resources, online resources. So by doing this, what we are doing, we are actually putting a lot of data to data centers. It means that now the age, which was actually the age of oil industry, has been changed to the actually data centers industry. And so data center, in fact, the factories of this current digital age. And at this present, these are the most important. But there are some issues related to these data centers. Number one is that they are using a huge amount of electricity, about 2% of total world's electricity. And they are also dissipating a significant amount of energy, more than 30%, and 30% overall from because of these transmission lines in the world. And what is happening because of this dissipation? And this dissipation is in fact contributing in carbon emission. And carbon emission is leading to global warming and creating many other problems. And currently at this, actually, the estimates tells in 2020, we have already crossed the carbon emission from data centers compared to aviation industry. So it means that we must think very carefully that how we can actually reduce or minimize this carbon emission from these very important industry data centers, particularly at the current age. So what we can do, we have to think hardly. So let's think about spintronics, because spintronics is a very efficient method to process the data, to process the information. So, and also to store it. What there is the problem is that for performing spintronic devices, we need 10 to 7 ampere per meter square current density, which is really very large. And this large current density not only dissipates heat, but it also actually limits the age of devices. So then we must think something which have no resistance or a very little resistance. What it could be? So one can easily think that it could be superconductivity. So if we do the spintronics with superconductivity, then we may call it superconducting spintronics or dissipating less spintronics. Okay, so now what is the superconductivity? The superconductivity, meaning the materials, those actually exhibit zero resistance and the absolute Meissner effect. Meissner effect means that they repel the applied magnetic field, means they are perfect diamagnets. So it was discovered at Leiden University, where I did actually the PhD in the lab of this professor Kamerling Honest. So he discovered superconductivity in 1911 in mercury, which was the first superconductor. what this kind of a material, we can utilize it to make the wires and then establish the transmission lines, and a lot of work is already going on. But what about spintronics? For doing the spintronics, we must actually look first the fundamentals of the superconductivity. We know that actually for doing spintronics, the most important thing for us is the spin degree of freedom, meaning the spin of the electrons, because in spintronics, we utilize the spins of the electrons. What in superconductors, there are actually not the free electrons, there are the Cooper pairs. What is the meaning of Cooper pair? Cooper pair is the combination of two electrons. They interact with each other, what both have opposite spin. So one Cooper pair has a zero spin. So then this is the very first issue. It means that we need these kind of Cooper pairs where we will have spin polarization, meaning both spins of these electrons must be in one particular direction with the spin polarization plus minus one. And so these actually Cooper pairs are wanted, and the reward will be superconducting spintronics. So what are the Cooper pairs? As I said that the Cooper pair is in fact the form with the attractive interaction between two electrons. So we can write the wave function of a Cooper pair in this form, which has two parts. One is the orbital part and second is the spin part. And because of the principle of exchange of particles, or you can understand with the Pauli principle, that this wave function must be antisymmetric, means we must have this negative sign always. And this negative sign we could get when one of these is antisymmetric and other is symmetric. So let's actually try to construct the Cooper pairs. So here this column is actually indicating S is equal to 0 means spin singlet superconductor condition, and S is equal to 1 meaning the spin triplet Cooper pairs. So let's start with L is equal to 0, and this is the S wave, and we can have the conventional superconductors, for example, aluminium or niobium. So these kind of superconductors, they have a spin singlet superconductivity and no spin triplet superconductivity. But if actually we go to the higher orders, to the P wave, and in the P wave, we cannot have spin singlet, but we can have spin triplet superconductors. And these, the examples could be uranium platinum or strontium ruthenate, but this strontium ruthenate is under actually still debate. But here you can see that this is actually a little difficult. This is a uranium based compound. And now let's go to the higher order D wave. It is again actually the spin singlet, because it is actually having S is equal to 0, the orbital part is antisymmetric, and we do not have spin triplet type here, and the type of high temperature superconductors are the D wave and spin singlet. So it also actually shows that this spin triplet superconductivity is rare in nature, and these are quite tough kind of a material, and I will show you later that why they are actually, it is difficult to get spin triplet superconductivity in nature. And now, can we do something with these Cooper pairs? Yes, because here, what we did when we actually, we are looking these fundamentals of the Cooper pairs, where we are looking only the two parts, orbital and the spin part. What we actually have time every time, that is the even, it's a symmetric, we are not talking about time. Let's make the time antisymmetric and both spin and orbital parts symmetric. So in that case, what we can do, we can fill this table completely. And in this case, we can also have S wave triplet, P wave triplet, or the D wave triplet. But this kind of a situation where we will actually utilize the time reverse symmetry, or you could say that the time is antisymmetric this time, is odd. So in that case, we have to break some symmetries, and that could be possible if we do have the interfaces between superconductors and some other special materials, and that could be, for example, the S wave superconductivity we can achieve at an interface of a superconductor and a ferromagnet. What is the meaning of the interface? What we can do when we will connect a superconductor, let's say, with the normal metal, and we do have a barrier between them, so this is one device. And what we can have here, an electron is coming from a normal metal, and it can reflect, or it can actually transmit through to the superconductor. And now we are, for example, in the normal state, meaning the temperature is higher than the critical temperature of this superconductor. The critical temperature means that the temperature above that it is a normal metal, and below it is a superconductor. So in this, actually, the regime, we can have conductivity, and we can calculate using this equation. And here this B is the normal reflection which is occurring because of this barrier. And then normalized conductance as a function of applied voltage, it will be just a constant, because it will be just, you can say, like a metallic device. And if, for example, we go down in the superconducting state, what could happen? The very first thing is that we know that now there will be no single electron, there will be the Cooper pair. So in that case, something happening, that what we call it enrave reflection. So enrave reflection will be added up in this equation, and conductivity in superconducting state will increase. How it increase? Let's see. So this electron, it will reflect back as a whole, and that whole will be a spin down. You see, we give one electron with a spin up, and we gain a whole with the spin down. Those have a correlation between each other. So it means we actually transferred two electrons, and these two electrons have opposite spins. So this is one Cooper pair. So in this case, we are actually transferring two electrons at a time, meaning that the conductivity compared to the normal state in the superconducting state, that will go to 2 times. Okay, when we have a zero barrier potential, means our device is transparent, and then with the increasing the barrier, we will actually reduce this conductance, and finally when we will be in a tunneling regime, very high barrier, then we would be measuring density of states. So here, this is the Professor Andreev who gave this idea, and here he's with his reflection. So in this result, what would happen, that in this case, what we are doing, we are also inducing the superconductivity in the normal metal, meaning that we are leaking the superconductivity in the normal metal, and that can induce over a micrometer, because it depends on the diffusion coefficient and the temperature. Okay, just keep this in your mind, that in normal metals, we can induce superconductivity over a micrometer, which is quite long. And now, if, for example, I do something with this device, I change this normal metal with the ferromagnet. What I did, I actually added the exchange field. Exchange field means that I have splitted the density of states of spin down and spin up. Now we have exchange field here. So in this case, what would happen, that our enrave reflection, because we said that this enrave reflection is very sensitive to the spin up must be reflected back as a whole of spin down. And now, for example, if the density of states of the spin down has reduced, then what would happen? The enrave reflection will suppress. So in that case, first of all, the conductance within the superconducting state in case of the ferromagnet will reduce. The second thing, the exchange field. The exchange field means the spin polarization. So we know that in ferromagnet, the spin must be aligned. So what that would do, that would actually induce these Cooper pairs in ferromagnet, what within a very, very short length. Because this time, actually the induction length that depends on the exchange field. So it will be not more than few nanometers. For example, in cobalt and nickel or strontium ruthenate 113, it will be just about 1 nanometer. It's a short range. Okay, so if it is a short range, but our problem is still not solved with the ferromagnets, because our Cooper pairs are still spin singlet, spin polarization is still 0. We want to do spintronics, so we need actually spin polarization. What we can do? In 2001, this theoretical idea actually came forward, and they actually suggested, the Professor Sebastian Bergereth from Spain, he suggested that if we do have a special ferromagnet means a spin polarization is there, what at the interface with a superconductor, there is a ferromagnetic domain wall. Ferromagnetic domain wall means that your spin direction is changing, is rotating. So if we would have this kind of a condition, First of all, we will have this short range proximity effect, meaning the induction of superconductivity in ferromagnet. What this rotational symmetry broken off this ferromagnet at interface will convert your spin singlet Cooper pair into spin triplet Cooper pair. Spin triplet Cooper pair means again the spin polarized Cooper pairs. And then now the spins of Cooper pair are aligned, meaning that ferromagnet is a friend, not enemy anymore. And in that case, we will have a longer induction, just like it was happening in normal metals. So this is a very good thing. How we can achieve it? That if we will have a ferromagnetic domain wall, or we use two different ferromagnets, those have a different alignments of the magnetization, or if we do have some kind of a disorder at the interface. So these kind of things, they can give us this spin polarized superconductivity for spin polarized supercurrents and to establish superconducting spintronics. So how we can use it? We have to actually build a Josephson junction. What a Josephson junction is? So for example, this is a sandwich of actually two superconductors sandwiched a barrier. So in this case, the induction is occurring in one side and the other side, and there is overlap. If there is overlap, this is a Josephson junction, and you would get a supercurrent, means a zero resistance current. And in case of these, actually the spin triplet Josephson junctions, as you learn that what we should do, we should have some kind of magnetic inhomogeneity, meaning that some kind of artificial ferromagnetic domain wall that we can do with multiple ferromagnetic layers. Consider that this central ferromagnetic layer is too long, meaning that the spin unpolarized, meaning spin singlet Cooper pairs, they cannot pass through this central ferromagnet. And we have here the converters of singlet to triplet, and those triplet, they would pass through. And then we can calculate that how much current can go through, and we can have a different situations by rotating the magnetization of this central layer or of any of these layers relative to each other. So we can do many things with these. So far, this is all actually the theoretical idea. But in 2006, from Delft University, the group of Professor Thune Klavik, they actually did the first experiment using chromium dioxide. Chromium dioxide is a very interesting material because it is a spin fully polarized, meaning that in this material, only one spin channel is available for conduction. So what does it mean? It means that Cooper pairs with a spin up and spin down, they can never penetrate in this material, only spin up, because there is only one spin channel, okay? So, and then what they did, they showed a supercurrent. You see here, the voltage is zero, what current is there, it means this is a zero resistance current. And it was happening over a long length. But at that time, it was not really well understood that how and why it is actually happening. And this is a fully spin polarized ferromagnet. And on the other hand, the reproducibility of even these devices was extremely low. And then I took this challenge and then started to work on chromium dioxide, and we started to grow chromium dioxide on home-built CVD technique. And then we actually deposited on titanium oxide because it is isostructural substrate, and you can see the grains actually grown only in one particular direction. And then we fabricated the devices, Josephson junctions, in this configuration. We call it a lateral Josephson junctions, where we have these superconductors and there is a gap. And in between, this is a ferromagnet, which is a chromium dioxide here. What? There was no any supercurrent. So it means there is some actually very serious problem. And that serious problem, then I come with another idea that we should not grow chromium dioxide on a best substrate, which is a titanium oxide. We should use something else, which is sapphire, which is a quite cheap substrate. And on the other hand, the sapphire has hexagonal crystal structure. And this hexagonal crystal structure will give actually the 6-fold rotation to these grains of chromium dioxide. You see here, it is just like a star-like situation, arrangement of these chromium dioxide grains. So now you can see that these grains are in 6 directions. So it means the easy axis will be along the longer length of this grain, and we must have 6 different easy axes, meaning the magnetization must be aligned in 6 different directions, and that is giving us a required magnetic inhomogeneity to switch a spin singlet to triplet. So with this idea, I started again a new devices, and here you can see that we actually successfully observed this supercurrent, which is fully spin polarized. But again, the reproducibility was just 5% because chromium dioxide is in a metastable state. It can easily convert in chromium 203, which is an insulator, and it's a problem. What the length of this junction was around 800 nanometer. It was the longest ever actually achieved. So it is still the world record. This is actually in my hands, alhamdulillah. And then this actually at this time, it was in 2010 when we did this at Leiden. And at the same time, the same kind of work with the different materials was actually done in Cambridge University and in the Michigan State University. So these 3 works actually was actually the basis of the Spintronics. This is a superconducting Spintronics. And but in actually the work in the Cambridge or in the Michigan State University, they used the multi-layers of the ferromagnets, and which I also tried with my devices. I put a nickel with chromium dioxide and again achieved the supercurrent. So we actually established a system. So in these actually the devices, as I already said, that for the Spintronics, we must have current density of the order of 10 raised to power 7 that we can achieve with chromium dioxide, and the longest length. What the problem is, the reproducibility is very low, and so this is not ready for the industry. So then we need to think something else, that is it possible if we can have a homogeneous spin active interface, meaning that whole of the device is contributing in this actually generation of spin triplet supercurrent. So in that case, you can actually relook on your devices. Here you see you are using 2 ferromagnetic layers, and it is quite complicated to control their magnetizations. And in a superconductor, this superconductor is spin singlet superconductor, meaning that there is no spin inside the superconductor. Now you can think that if we can have a spin triplet superconductor, means superconductor itself have spin polarization of the Cooper pairs, but this is actually in a different direction. So total polarization is 0. But if we will put a ferromagnet, we can polarize it. And this theory says, yes, it can be happen. And in this case, it will be even very easy to control the functionalities of the device by just rotating the magnetization of this ferromagnetic layer. And then with this idea, I moved to Japan, where actually people were doing a lot of work on bulk superconductors. Those were spin triplet. But then which spin triplet superconductor you want to use for your new devices? So here, this is the table of spin triplet superconductors. So let's try to find the best one. So first of all, the helium-3 is out because it is liquid. And then the most of these superconductors are out because they are uranium-based and we are not allowed to use them freely in the lab. So I would not take the risk to use these kind of compounds. And the other one, they are non-centrosymmetric, and those are quite actually the difficult materials as well. And on the other hand, they also have a combination of spin singlet and spin triplet. But then there was only one thing left behind, which is strontium-2 ruthenium-4, which was actually discovered. The superconductivity in this material was discovered in 1994 by Professor Joshimaino, and I was in his lab. It means that I can use that material as much as possible. So this is the best example at that time. And then when you will actually fabricate Josephson junction, you can simply say that, okay, grow strontium-2 ruthenium-4, then ferromagnet, then again the superconductor, actually this Josephson junction will be ready. But it is not the case because we don't have the thin films of this material. Those would be superconductor as well, because this is a very sensitive material. What we actually have single crystals. So let's try to use the single crystals, but there was again a problem. The problem is that this actually material, there are some actually the atomic reconstructions. Reconstruction means that its crystal actually reconstruct itself along the AB plane with a rotation of oxygen octahedra, and which breaks the superconductivity. And I checked it by putting cobalt at the top of it. Then I was just actually doing this by the sputtering, and you can see there is no any superconducting transition. And then we need to think something different. meaning that we need to engineer the interface where we can actually solve this reconstruction as well. So in that case, you must think that you are going to put some ferromagnet, which is very close to your superconductor, and then you should do epitaxially. So that means that you need to think and you need to look in the nature, and nature is beautiful. You see that the same family of the material, strontium 2, ruthenium 4 is a superconductor, but strontium 1, ruthenium 1, O3, that is a ferromagnet. So it means they have both same kind of oxygen octahedras. With this idea, I said, okay, we should work with it. And then I collaborated with a Korean group of Professor Taiwano, and we deposited the first film. The first result was very actually promising that the film can be grown. You can see that we have the film peak and then the substrate peak, and they are actually in the same orientation, meaning the epitaxially. And now you have to look at the interface under the transmission electron microscope, and you see this is atomically smooth, and it's beautiful actually the interface. So material is ready to go ahead, and then we need to check the magnetization, whether it is also ferromagnetic. Yes, it is. Wow. And it is a ferromagnet, and the interface is metallic, and the resistance is going down with decreasing temperature, and it's a linear ohmic interface. So now ready for the device fabrication. We fabricated the devices at a RIC in Tokyo using the laser massless lithography, and we fabricated the devices in this way. So here, keep in your mind that my ferromagnet is a 15 nanometer thick. So the device length is just 15 nanometers. Okay, so then the next process is the superconducting properties. Superconducting properties, very first thing is you can understand that cool it down and measure the resistance. You can see this time I have superconducting transition. When I do have superconducting transition, one transition is quite much strong and other one is weaker when I increase the current. That means this stronger one is somewhere coming to be from the weaker superconductor, meaning the proximatized, which is in ferromagnet. So this actually shows that there are two transitions. To understand these transitions, what we have to do, we have to actually study the current voltage characteristics, or you can say in simple words, the differential conductance. The differential conductance means, as you see, you saw in actually the introductory slides, that there was enhancement of the conductance in the superconducting state. So the same thing when we were in the superconducting state at just 0.3 Kelvin, you can see there is an enhancement of the conductance, meaning the Andreev reflection. I guess you still remember Andreev reflection. So this Andreev reflection is occurring here, and that is actually expressing with the increase in temperature. And you can see there was another actually the increase in the conductance, meaning that there are two different Andreev reflections happening. And this third one, which is occurring here, you can see this is because of the bulk superconductor. It is always there in such devices. Now, if we do have these two Andreev reflections, that means that there must be two interfaces. Those are very important. Yes, look in the device. The one interface is with the gold and this ferromagnet, which was our top electrode to measure the transport properties. And the first one is between this ferromagnet and the superconductor. So there are two interfaces. So two Andreev reflections, meaning the induction of superconductivity is all over this ferromagnet. And this all over ferromagnet means 15 nanometer. And this ferromagnet, we can put spin singlet Cooper pair, but only over maximum 3 nanometers, not more than that. It means that these Cooper pairs, those are induced in this ferromagnet, they are spin polarized. And more actually important and encouraging thing here in these devices was that the reproducibility was more than 75% with a very long life of these devices. So now you can ask a question that whether it is what kind of the order parameter. I would not spend much time over here because it will be a little bit difficult for you guys. So that's why I would like to make it as simple as possible. The order parameter means the density of states, that how density of states looks like. Because as I said that S wave, P wave, D wave order parameters, those we can see actually with the differential conductance. So with that idea, what I did, I actually put a barrier. between top gold electrode and a ferromagnet. So now you can actually measure the density of state because this is a tunnel junction. So this actually we did the calculations and we found that our conductance must be a V-shaped. V-shaped means that it should be the P wave order parameter and spin triplet. And then these devices shows again superconducting transition beautifully. And then you can see here it is exactly the V-shaped differential conductance, which is an experimental. So it shows it is a spin triplet. So if it is a spin triplet, then you can ask the question that is it actually having some kind of anisotropy like a magnetic anisotropy? Let's have a look. Yes, these are the color pictures. Color picture means the function of applied field. When I apply the field along the C-axis, the order parameter is pressing in the normal way that what we expect with the increase in applied magnetic field. But when I apply the magnetic field in plane along the AB plane, then you can see that first it's pressed strongly, then slowly. So this is a very clear anisotropy, and that anisotropy can be explained with the relative orientation of the spin inside a ferromagnet and the spin of the spin triplet Cooper pairs inside the superconductor. So it means this is actually a better, the pathway to develop the superconducting spintronics, and the new devices like a spin triplet superconductor based transistors are devices. So here with this, I would actually summarize my, my talk. And here, this is a summary that we can actually use half metallic ferromagnets to have a fully spin polarized supercurrent, but a reproducibility just 5%, which can be increased using the oxides. And these are a very special oxides, strontium ruthenate, and there are also other examples. For nowadays, people are very focused on those. And the reproducibility is more than 75%. And then this is actually the time to start superconducting spintronics using the oxides. So thank you very much for your attention. And now I'm ready for questions if you may have.
Thanks very much, Dr. Mohammad Shabaz Anwar. Very nice and informative talk.
Thank you very much.
Students and faculty members, if you want to ask some question, do ask, please. PhD girls. It means either they have understood all.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Or they have not understood anything.
Yes, this is most.
I just want to add.
I guess there is someone.
Yes, I want to ask in fact something. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Dr. Shabaz, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate your talk, and I believe everybody must have learned a lot from your ideas. I just want to add here, I think so we can have the superconductors through the magnetic field strength. I mean, if we can have the magnetic field of the order of 10 power 13 to 14 Gauss in the laboratory, if we can generate such high magnetic field, then I believe we can have the superconductors even through the strength of that field. I mean, in such situation, the magnetization will become a function of the super strong magnetic field strength.
So if I understand correctly, so your question is using the superconductor, we can have a very strong magnet, isn't it?
Through the, yes, I just said that we can have the superconductors, or we can generate the superconductors through the strength of the super strong magnetic field. I believe some laboratories in China and in some other countries as well, the people are generating now the magnetic field of the order of 10 power 13 to 14 Gauss in the laboratories. So if we could have 10 power 13 to 14 Gauss.
So this is actually, let me make it a little clear. So when we say that the magnetic field of such order, that means that those these magnets, there are the pulsed magnets. So there we give a pulse to generate a very actually small portion of time, a huge magnet. What to have actually a persistent magnet. So for example, if you may remember that there was a Large Hadron Collider, they actually are using the superconducting coils to generate the magnetism. and that magnetism just to bend these ion beams. So those superconductors, those are very strong, but they are not more than tens of Tesla. But to have, you can say, more than that, you need to use a different technique, a different technology, which we call pulsed magnets. Because here in superconductors, what we actually have, as I said, that these are the perfect diamagnet. Perfect diamagnet means that they have their magnetic susceptibility -1. And then the all applied magnetic field will repel back. So this is most interesting application, that you can have magnetic levitation, that you have a superconductor, you put it on a on a magnet, then that magnet will actually push up the superconductor, because they have actually repulsion, applied magnetic, and then the superconductor is perfect diamagnet, so it will repel up. So this is actually, the people are also thinking.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. But let me add here that I am a theoretician, and I have recently done some calculations where we have shown that in the presence of the such super strong magnetic field, the susceptibility is no more negative, or in fact it becomes plus positive, and through that susceptibility we can have the positive permeability, and that positive permeability leads to the formation of the superconductor. I believe actually we done work on the basis of the Landau quantization. Landau has done it in the presence of the not very much strong magnetic field, only he has taken into account the Fermi pressure and the Fermi concepts. But we redo those concepts, and we have shown that in the presence of the super strong magnetic field, the susceptibility become function of the magnetic field strength, super strong magnetic field strength. So as you goes on increasing the super strong magnetic field strength, you can have the superconductors. Like in nature, in the neutron star, naturally 10 power 14 to 15 gauss, we can have naturally. So anyways, thank you very much. I'm really impressed of your ideas in this scenario.
Here with your comment that when we apply magnetic field on superconductors, we actually can break superconductivity, because there is always some coercivity of a superconductor, that above some limits we cannot apply the magnetic field, because the magnetic field can break the superconductivity. But there are also some materials that where first you break superconductivity and a very high magnetic field again re-emerge the superconductivity. That re-emerged superconductivity in the same material, that is much more different and very interesting. That could also be spin triplet. The people are also doing a lot of work over there. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shabaz.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, Dr. Rosina. She was the Dr. Rosina, Associate Professor in the Physics Department, who was talking with us.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay,
one simple
now I want to welcome the next speaker, Professor Dr. Farah Khan. Professor Dr. Farah Khan is chairperson of the Botany Department, Lahore College for Women, University Lahore. She is also Director Research and Postgraduate Studies. She earned her PhD from Punjab University and postdoc from Ohio State University, USA. Her field of specialization is molecular genetics and plant biotechnology. She and her team are working on successful treatment of cancer and dementia from plant-derived metabolites. She has more than 90 research publications and 4 books on her credit. Today, she will share her knowledge with us about virucidal potential of green nanoparticles. Okay, thank you, madam. Please start.
Assalamu alaikum. Hello everyone. As Professor Dr. Zohra Kiani mentioned, topic of my today's talk is the virucidal potential of green nanoparticles. This topic may be somewhat new, may not be new for the people working in the field of physics, but in fact, I wanted to let you know that some plant scientists, they are also working on the formulation of nanoparticles from plant-derived material. So I would present my talk over here, and I would like to have my presentation. That is the virucidal potential of green nanoparticles. This title and this topic is in fact, it is the need of the time because of the different ailments and different problems and different infections caused by the increased mutations in the viruses. The viruses and the virids, they are the smallest particles, and most of them, but rather all of them, they are just RNAs and covered with a protein coat, and their working is being that is controlled by the RNA nucleotides. These viruses, they just have a great tendency to get mutated very soon, sometimes as early as in few hours. So they create the problems, and these problems, they just vary from country to country, from person to person due to the great mutational variations in the viruses. So we would love to talk about the plants, antiviral plants, which are being reported. And these antiviral plants, they just have the tendency to tackle the problem in their own ways due to some metabolites, due to some chemicals, due to some compounds present in those plants. Now, it's a new field of plant sciences to develop the nanoparticles from these plants. These nanoparticles, they are called the green nanoparticles. So we will like to share the details over here with you. What are the green nanoparticles? Green nanoparticles are the nanoproducts synthesized using biological sources, that is the microorganisms, enzymes, and plants, etc. Green nanotechnology has been described as the development of clean green nanoparticles from plant origin. They minimize potential environmental and human health risks associated with the manufacture and use of the nanoproducts. It involves the replacement of existing chemically originated nanoparticles with those of environmentally friendly and with low cost plant originated ones. GNPs, more beneficial to use. Why we recommend the green nanoparticles or the GNPs, and we just want to get them introduced in the society. Although many of the people and many of the researchers, they are working on it, but it is a need of the time to get them introduced in the world of science so that more people, they can work on them and discover the new horizons. Green nanoparticles represent an advance over their other methods because their production is comparatively simple, cost-effective, reproducible, and often results in more stable products. Green nanoparticles are synthesized at low temperature without toxic ingredients, using less energy with renewable inputs. During their green synthesis, no high pressure, no more energy, temperature, or any other physical treatment is required. Green synthesis of photosynthesis or phytosynthesis of medicinal nanoparticles from medicinal plants is a cost-effective, eco-friendly, and non-toxic approach of nanoparticle synthesis than any other physical or chemical approach. Here is a graphic representation how the green nanoparticles, they are being synthesized, and we have a sort of comparison of green nanoparticles with the other nanoparticles, physically or chemically originated. Over here, green methods, they include the plants, they include the algae, fungi, yeast, actinoicities, enzymes, mono and polysaccharides, microwave irradiation occurs over here. So all these are the living organisms, all these are the plants, and they are the source of the origin of the nanoparticles. Now, researchers, they have been shifted towards the green nanoparticles. What do? For example, titanium oxides, copper oxides, gold, silver, zinc oxides, cerium oxides, they are the chemicals by which ionize and manufacture or synthesize these green particles when they are being mixed with the extracts of the plants in methanol or any other solvent. These metal solutions, they just combine and they give rise to the nanoparticles, and these are being characterized by the X-rays, SEM, TEM, FTIR, and spectroscopy. And their applications, they are the drug delivery, X-ray imaging, agriculture, drug delivery to animals and plants, and photothermal therapies. Now, the real process of synthesis. What do? We take the plant extracts and the metal ionic solution, and we just get them mixed at a particular temperature, pH, and a proper solvent, and biological reduction occurs, and nucleation occurs, and this nucleation, it being capped by the metal particles. So metal particles, they just are being capped by the biologically formed, or we can say the vegetatively formed solution that covers the that metal particles. Now the applications of nanoparticles, I have told you briefly earlier. They are widely used now in nanofertilizers, nanopesticides and herbicides, nanocoating. Orthodontic uses are also present over here. Cleaning of hazardous waste sites, desalination of water, treatment of environmental pollutants, and the most important is the synthesis of the medicines. And these medicines, they include a larger range of medicines also affecting the viruses. Now, I would like to mention some of the plants which take part in a process of this biosynthesis of green nanoparticles, and I would like to mention their detail, and I would I will inform you about the synthesis and their function. Green fabrication of copper oxide nanoparticles from fruit part of Syzygium alternifolium was reported by Yugandhar et al. They found that these show significant antiviral activity against Newcastle disease virus. Over here, this is Syzygium alternifolium, and this plant is a small size tree, and it is composed of the fruits which are being indicated over here, and these fruits, they are got extracted by the addition of solvents and the copper oxide that is being mixed with them, and they are being ionized, and the green nanoparticles are present over here. It is a long process in which the green nanoparticles are being formed, synthesized, formed, and isolated,
and then being preserved at low temperature. So they can be used anywhere for the commercial uses and commercial market. Another example is the synthesis of silver, iron, and zinc nanoparticles by using citrus limata peels. Citrus limata peels, they are being used. These nano biomaterials significantly reduced chikungunya virus. And chikungunya virus, it is a very deadly virus, and it is being these type of green nanoparticles, they are being found effective against the viral RNA and the viral material. So what happens over here, this graphic representation, it shows that citrus peels, they are being powdered and they are mixed with the metal solution, and the nanoparticles are formed in static solution, and they are being characterized, and their antiviral assay is being prepared, and they are being experimented, and they are being used over the infected and the control. And they showed excellent and marvelous results against the chikungunya virus. Next, another example is very common. That is the Allium stivum. Allium stivum is the garlic, common garlic, which we use over here. That is the with the reaction with gold. These are called as the gold nanoparticles of Allium stivum. It is very much effective against the measles viruses. And this is a very recent work in 2019, done in 2019. And these extracts, they were very effective to show the antiviral activity and very helpful in eliminating the measles viruses.
Is there a voice problem? We are not listening.
I'm sorry for the interruption due to some power failure. I just start from the point where I left. That is the COVID. Here, our favorite and our very disturbing virus, that is the COVID virus, COVID-19. I'm not talking about the COVID-19, but particularly it is against the COVID-19. Over here, the silver nanoparticles of 20 nanometer and 60 or 400 nanometers diameters showed antiviral activities against COVID by blocking cellular endosomal acidification, which seems to be an essential step in COVID replication. Using an ATPase blocker, diethylene, it results in efficient COVID replication blockage. It is a very recent work and it is being done in 2020. So it shows an advancement in the field of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the researchers, they are working on it and they are getting the results. And they have rather published it, definitely, but more extensive work is needed. Next work over here is the silver nanoparticle formation. It is Lampranthus cochineus. Lampranthus cochineus is a flowering herb, and another plant, it is called as the Mellifera lutea. Both of them, they belong to family Azaceae, and they just show the activity, virucidal activity, when the silver, they mix with the, that is the silver ingredients and compounds, and they show the HSV-1 virus, that is the herpes virus, and they have successfully eliminated these viruses. Another attempt was made in 2019. Silver nanoparticles were synthesized from Andrographis paniculata and Tinospora codifolia. Both of them, they showed excellent antiviral activity against chikungunya and chikungunya virus, and the tests were done on viral cells. Both these plants, they showed the excellent antiviral activity. Poliovirus is also being tackled by the green nanoparticles very successfully. Cerium oxide nanoparticles using aqueous fruit extracts of Hyphaean thebaca were found to have a broad spectrum of antiviral and antimicrobial activities. The ceria and nanoparticles exhibited virucidal potential against polioviruses. This work was also done in 2020, very recently, in July 2020. Thought of the today. The use of reported medicinally important virucidal plant species for biosynthesis of green nanoparticle is the need of the time due to the extra smartness of viruses and the inefficiency of synthetic medicines against these. The concept of use of herbal nanomaterial to treat the enveloped viruses is supported by the small size of the viruses. Similar sized green nanoparticles of reported virucidal medicinal plants can target this virus smartly as compared to the other medicines. In the present scenario, green nanoparticle materials have emerged as novel antiviral agents due to unique chemical properties of their vegetative sources. Green nanoparticles have proven to be active against several types of viruses, including human immunodeficiency virus, hepatitis B virus, herpes simplex virus, respiratory syndrome virus, polio virus, chikungunya virus, monkeypox virus, and even very recently, the COVID-19. So the COVID virus, that is the virus affecting this problem. So the antiviral and antimicrobial activity of green nanoparticles have opened a new field of nanomedicines in viral infection and sometimes in cancer therapies. Some of the cancers are being suspected, or rather are being reported to be caused by the viruses themselves, especially when we talk about the cancers like the breast cancers. So the structural, chemical, and physical properties of green nanoparticles give them a unique power to attack and penetrate the targets very easily. Thank you very much for listening my talk.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Sharma, for giving very informative talk. And this is the field in which both physicists are always interested. Now, the girls, students who are sitting here, if you want to ask some question.
Assalamu alaikum, ma'am.
Walaikum salam. Yes, Hadra.
Ma'am, I want to ask that we talked about, Assalamu alaikum, ma'am Farah. Ma'am, you talked about silver nanotube for the treatment of COVID-19. Is it the same colloidal silver that is being used in the West as a dietary supplement? Or is it another one you prepared?
I couldn't listen rather. The voice was very low. Would you please repeat your question?
Ma'am, I was asking, you talked about silver nanotube or silver nanoparticles for the treatment of coronavirus. Is it the same colloidal silver that is being used in the West as a dietary supplement?
No. In fact, many of the medicines or many of the chemicals and many of the plants, they cannot be taken as diet. Never try to do it because they can be applied externally, and if they are being taken like medicines, they are being modified and their cytotoxicity is being checked by the scientists before using such plants and such chemicals. Their concentration matters and their properties, they matter.
Dr. Farah, may I ask one simple question?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. It's a very interesting field of making nanoparticles. Can you control the size of the nanoparticles? For example, if you need 30 nanometers, 20 nanometers, 10 nanometers. And then the second is, do you have enough quantity to produce these through green chemistry of different plants?
Yes, sir. Of course, we have enough quantity to get these nanoparticles. We have enough quantity of plant material, and we have some experiments which shows the control on the size of the nanoparticles by changing the concentration of the ingredients. It is a tricky matter, but it works. It works.
Because, see, the measurements of, let's say, 15 nanometers is not exact. It would give you a certain range of 15 to 20 or 30 nanometers. And did you actually have the so much accurate size of nanoparticles used?
Yes, we
मैं तो connected हूँ जी. अस्सलाम वालेकुम. Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me all?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. We
Uh,
can hear you.
and so now we are again back. I think Professor Dr. Bhatt was asking some question from Professor Dr. Farah. Sir, will you please repeat your question because Dr. Farah is here?
Very quickly, I just wanted to ask the size measurements, were they actually 15 nanometers? They use copper oxide and different, because it's very difficult to have a very precise measurement of the nanoparticles. Usually they are ranges of a few nanometers. And second, of course, the quantity is milligrams or grams. She said sufficient quantity means in milligrams weight or grams weight or what of the produced nanoparticles.
in fact,
Is it okay?
yes, sir. I couldn't hear because of
Now,
some
could I
problem
repeat?
over here. Yes, sir.
Very precise measurement of the nanoparticles, 15 you mentioned, or it was a range of, usually it's a range. And second is you mentioned the sufficient quantity. Sufficient quantity means milligrams or grams of the nanoparticles produced, because we need to know the quantity before we use for certain experiments. Is it okay?
Sir, yes. Yes, sir. In fact, sir, the size of the nanoparticles, as I told you earlier, is controllable because we vary the concentration of the solvent as well as the concentrations of extract. So it depends upon the several repeated experiments. One. Second, that the beneficial aspect in this concern that the size of the nanoparticles should be smaller than the size of the viruses, which they can target, in which they can penetrate through the pores, the protein pores of the structure of the viruses. They are being covered by the protein, and they have special pore sites from where they get them attached to the human cell or the any living cell, where they just attach themselves and they enter through that to the ribosomes of the humans. So that the most important thing that the sizes of the nanoparticles, green nanoparticles, must have two characteristics. First of all, they must be antiviral in their character, and secondly, they must be smaller than the size of the virus itself. I must say that they must be smaller than the size of the pore itself in which they can enter. So this is a very tricky sort of experiment, but the people, they are getting success they are getting more and more successes in this scenario, and we hope that we'll be definitely working on it. And I have very recently filed a project in World Bank, Local Challenge Fund, where I would love to, I have a long list of 30 antiviral plants, and I would love to work on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, madam. Is there any question? Should we move to our next speaker? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is Professor Walther. Professor Walther has visited Pakistan on many conferences and seminars. Professor Walther is currently serving as Professor of Physics in Bristol University, UK. He has published 136 peer-reviewed research articles and completed many projects. His expertise is to prepare ultra-thin films and nanostructure by electrochemical deposition methods. Today, he is also talking about how does a polycrystalline electrode deposited film grow. Professor Walther, please continue, and thanks for joining us.
Assalamu alaikum. Okay. मेरा नाम प्रोफेसर वॉल्टर श्वार्ट्ज़र है। मैं प्रोफेसर यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ ब्रिस्टल में हूँ और मैं शुरू करूँगा नक्शे के साथ। यहाँ लंदन है। सब लोग को लंदन मालूम है। यहाँ ब्रिस्टल है, यूनिवर्सिटी ब्रिस्टल में है। यहाँ मेरी यूनिवर्सिटी और यहाँ फिजिक्स और अभी मैं अंग्रेजी बोलूँगा। Okay, here again is the title of my talk. How does a polycrystalline electrodeposited film grow? What I want to do in this talk is introduce you to high-speed atomic force microscopy. High-speed atomic force microscopy is still a very new technology and one which has many applications in nanoscience. The application that I am interested in is to electrochemical deposition. Electrodeposition is something that many of you may have already used to make thin metal films or to make nanowires or magnetic structures. It's in principle a very simple system. What you do is you pass a current through an electrolyte, and when you pass the current, ions are reduced and the ions become metal atoms. So here again is the process summarized. You start with metal ions in solution, they receive electrons, and when the electrons reduce the ions, they produce a layer of metal atoms. Here is a very simple example, and the example that I shall be talking about later, that is the electrodeposition of copper. Copper is divalent, so it takes two electrons. First electron reduces the copper to copper 1+, and then copper 0. The exact process, of course, is more complicated than this, and sometimes the electron transfer takes place in a single stage. Very often, when you hear a talk on nanotechnology, you will hear the presenter say that their technique is the most recently developed of all possible techniques. This is not true for electrodeposition. I am proud of the fact that electrodeposition has an extraordinarily long history. Electrodeposition was used to prepare thin metal coatings in the American continents as many as 1800 years ago. and possibly earlier in parts of Asia. It is also a very high technology method because it is the standard method in ultra large scale integrated circuits for producing the metal connections between the semiconducting components. And it has been used in place of vapor deposited material since around the turn of the century. And there is much research goes on into metal electrodeposition, although it is a well-established technique. So what is the problem that I am going to talk to you about today? It's really quite a fundamental one. If you produce a metal film, normally it will end up rough and consisting of many different grains. And the surface roughness and the grain structure are linked. If you have large grains, you very often have a rough film, unless you have a single crystal film that you have polished on, you have produced on a polished substrate. So the grain structure, the microstructure, and the surface roughness are very closely linked, and both change with film thickness. Here you see an atomic force microscopy, conventional atomic force microscopy, image of a 4-micron thick copper film. And the important thing here is the length scale. This is covering around 24 microns. And you can see that as you make a thicker film, then the grain structure gives coarser structures. So if I show you this film again, here you can see that the individual spots are probably around 1 micron in diameter.
Excuse me,
Here,
sir.
yes?
I guess you forget to share your screen.
Am I not sharing?
No.
I'm sorry, I hoped somebody would tell me that before.
No,
We can see your screen.
Pakistan में सब लोग बहुत शाइस्ते हैं और कुछ नहीं बोलते हैं.
Thank you very
Just
much.
text you, sir, but I think you didn't see.
Okay, I will go back and I will try to share the screen. It was clicked, it is supposed to, I clicked on it, but it isn't actually sharing it. Yeah, now it is screen sharing.
Thank you, sir.
Were you uninterested? Well, are you interested enough that I go back? Okay, I show you a couple of things which were interesting. This is the historic aspect. These beautiful things are masks which have got an electrodeposited coating on them. And that coating was produced nearly 2000 years ago. Here is the high technology application of electrodeposition. Very fine structures used to connect metal, the semiconducting components in a chip. So this one is just the explanation of electrodeposition, that you need to have an anode and a cathode. You pass a current between the two, and electrodeposition takes place by this process. Okay, so back to where I was, and again, my apologies. Here you see a very fine structured film. Here you see a much coarser structured film. And I would like to answer one very simple on the surface question. How do you get from a fine structured film to a coarse structured film? You can look at this like a detective after the event, because the film has been made. You can cut into it and look at its grain structure. You can see that grains close to the surface are small. Grains further out are much bigger. And so the question is, how do you get from the fine structure to the coarse structure? One of the important things is to quantify the system. And a useful tool is this one, the interface width. The interface width is the root mean squared deviation of the surface from its mean height. As you can see here, if you have got a small value of the length scale, then you have got a small value of the deviation. If you have a large value of the length scale, you have a large value of the deviation. So that is a way of quantifying the surface roughness, the root mean squared deviation from the mean value. If you plot scaling value, you take scaling data, you typically obtain something that looks like this. The important part is the shape. You've got a region down here, which is a straight line. Then the data saturates at the saturation roughness. And LC here is so-called correlation length. The correlation length, I'm sorry, I have problems with my slideshow. The correlation length is where you have a crossover from a sloping to a flat curve. Okay, so now I will show you experimental data, and you can see that the shape of this experimental data, this is measured surface roughness, is the same as it would be for the theoretical curve I gave you. You can see here that there is a crossover. Here there is a straight line with a constant line with constant slope, saturation. And what you can see is that the position of the crossover here is moving to here, to here, to here. What that is showing you is that the size of the features is increasing as the film gets thicker. What causes this? One possibility is that grains just grow at a particular rate from a particular facet. You can see grain A here. It will grow out in this direction. Grain C will grow out in this direction. Picture grain B here has got a problem. Grain B is covered by the grains A and C just because of the direction of growth. Now I want to say something about high-speed atomic force microscopy. The advantage of high-speed atomic force microscopy is it has all the advantages of standard atomic force microscopy, but you can get the data much, much faster. Instead of waiting 10 minutes to acquire a high-resolution microns by micron scan, you can acquire it in less than a second. So it means that you can study much faster processes in high resolution in nanotechnology. It has been applied to the very early nucleation stages of electrodeposition by other researchers. We are interested in the later stages and in growth on polycrystalline substrates. Here is a picture of the instrument. Basically, it looks the same as any other atomic force microscope. The clever part lies in the sample stage. The sample stage carries a very light sample and can scan backwards and forwards very, very rapidly. So the rapid scanning comes from movement of the sample and not from movement of the cantilever. So we have done our deposition on gold substrates on glass. We pattern a microelectrode on the glass in order to have good mass transport. So schematically, this is what the experimental system looks like. We've got a very light electrochemical cell. We have got a patterned microelectrode, and we have a small amount of electrolyte. Actually, that is not to scale. The size of the microelectrode is only 30 microns in diameter. Now I would like to show you some data for electrodeposited copper. This is the method that we used to do the deposition, constant potential. We deposited for 120 seconds, and because this is quite fast deposition, that is sufficient to deposit nearly a micron thickness of film. So the data is acquired at 2 frames per second, and it's possible to show in real time how the film grows. So here is a video which shows the film growing. The film has been sped up a little bit, but the data has been acquired over 2 minutes. And what you can hopefully see, if I go back again to the beginning, is that the film starts very fine, but as the deposition continues, the individual grains become thicker and thicker. This is the very first experiment that we have done using this technique, and there are still some issues. One can see from the data that actually many of the grains look triangular. This is a consequence probably of convolution between the tip and the substrate. And any of you who are working with atomic force microscopy, if you see something like this, where you will see that there is a particular shape, a triangle here, 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 here. If you see the same shape repeated many times, that is an indication that you are partly imaging your tip. So the detail of the shape of the grains is not reliable. But what is more reliable is how the film becomes coarser, bigger grains with time. Here you see a snapshot from the early stage, fine grains. Now a little bit less fine. Now really quite coarse grains. So you can see it from the image. You can also see it from the scaling data, because the sort of knee, the bend, moves from this position out to this position. That tells you that the grain size is increasing. In fact, the grain size increases as a power of the deposition time, as shown on this graph. So coarsening is really taking place. The question is how? We need to understand our growth method well. One thing that we can do is we can see that if we move from this area to another area during the deposition, we see a square appear. What that means is that if we change the scan area, we are now moving from an area where deposition has taken place here to a deposition where it has not taken place. And the fact that we see a step tells us the deposition is fastest where the tip is scanning. Now, there could be many reasons for that. It could be an effect of stirring the electrolyte with the atomic force microscope, but it is, I think, more likely that the atomic force microscope tip is actually affecting the chemistry at the surface by removing a passivating, blocking layer of oxide. And previous workers, Lagraf and Gewirth, quoted here, did quite a careful study on this. Another thing which we can do by moving the scanning area is we can look at the very edge of the film and compare the height of the film and the height of the template. Here you see the template remains the same, it is this peak, but the film goes from being this red line here to being a black line. So you can actually see the film increase in thickness. So now back to some experimental data. We're interested in why the film grows non-uniformly and the surface becomes coarser. We can look at our video and select a couple of grains. Here you see two grains, X and Y, at an early stage, relatively, of growth. A little bit later, look at the grain Y. It has become much bigger than its neighbor. So this is actually, curiously enough, for such an old technique, possibly the first time that accelerated local growth has been observed. Here you see a cross section. Here you can see grain Y. Now it is about the same height as grain X, and now it is very much larger. So you can see that grain growth takes place in a very non-uniform way. Sometimes a small grain, Y here, can overtake rapidly its neighbor like that. And when you have got one grain growing faster than another, it could take place by overgrowth, as shown here. You can see that this grain grows outwards and it grows over its neighbor, and that will lead to a coarser structure. You could also have, and you can see here that the period has changed from lambda here. The feature size has changed from a small value of lambda to a large value of lambda. You can also have the deposition taking place without the grains growing bigger. Here you have overgrowth and the grains get larger laterally. Here you do not have overgrowth, but if one grain gets higher than the others, you notice that the slope has to increase. If something gets higher without getting wider, it must get sharper. And this change in the angle and overgrowth can both be observed. Here you see another two grains, grain 1 and grain 2. You can see that grain 1 grows over the top of grain 2. Going back here, grain 2 almost disappears underneath grain 1. So you can also see from the cross section that the slope increases. The original slope is the blue line, and the new slope is more vertical like this. You can also measure the slope across the whole sample, and you can see that the mean slope is actually increasing as you do so. So what we've observed with this new technique is that you get this accelerated local growth. You get some grains growing faster than their neighbors. But why would one grain grow faster than another one? It could be mass transport. If you have a supply of reactants to a surface, and that supply is better to something which is higher, then you will have faster growth. But if that were true, the highest grain should grow faster. And if you look back here, Y is initially much less high than X. So that explanation cannot be true. What seems more likely is that it is related to the local microstructure, that there is a greater density of half-crystal sites. Half-crystal sites are key to growth of any polycrystalline metal or single crystal metal. They are sites where only half of the bonds are actually supplied, and it is those sites that are in equilibrium with whatever is being the supply of reactants, for example, in electric deposition. So one more possibility is that the surface reorganizes structurally, that what happens is that you can get twin structures, and twin structures have also got high energy sites where growth can take place rapidly. So this is my summary, and you can see what it says. My talk will soon stop, and I'm very happy to answer any questions. So apologies for the technical problems that I had, although I have produced a number of recorded web talks. This is actually, despite the lockdown, my first one live. So I'm sorry you have been the victims of my inexperience, but thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much, Professor Walter, for a very informative talk. You have given us very good understanding of electrode deposition as well as of microstructures. Now, house is open for any question.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Zora and Dr. Walter. Very informative talk. Actually, sir, I want to ask the question that why you use specifically the electro deposition technique instead of the other techniques for the deposition of thin films. And the secondly, you use the metal, the copper. Why you use the copper instead of the other metal? And is it possible to use other metals instead of the copper by using this technique?
These are both very good questions. The reason for studying electrodeposition is because it is interesting. I am very lucky to be working in a physics that there is a widely used deposition technique, electrodeposition, that has been used for 2000 years, but still people do not understand it properly. Therefore, it is a challenge to understand it. There are good reasons to use electrodeposition for many applications because it is very cheap. It is not requiring a vacuum system. It can be used for many metals other than copper. Copper is important as it is a very conductive metal, and it is the one that is used in the microelectronics industry for connecting semiconducting components. But you can also deposit silver, gold, and particularly magnetic metals. A number of researchers in Pakistan have done interesting research using electrodeposited magnetic films.
Thank you so much, sir.
Professor Walter, I want to add here that I have done electrodeposition route during my PhD, and now my PhD students are also working on it. So I also like this technique very much, although all the techniques are available. Like as you have told, suitability of copper and no vacuum is required, so it is very friendly technique. Thanks for giving comprehensive answer.
You're
Walter,
welcome.
welcome to this lecture.
Thank you. It is good to see you again.
Yeah. My simple question is, you move the sample, what are the speeds and in several directions?
The speed is of the order of a few microns per second. That may not sound very much, but if you compare that to a standard scanning probe microscope, it is actually very fast because you are moving at 1 micron per second, but you are taking data with a resolution of nanometers.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more question or any comment?
May I ask a question, ma'am?
Yes, definitely, Dr. Shabaz, please.
Yes, thank you very much, ma'am. So it was really very nice and informative talk. Thank you very much. My question is about overgrowth of a grain compared to its neighbor. Is there a protocol, a technique to avoid it, to have a more uniformity?
There are ways of totally changing the microstructure. For example, to use additives during growth. If you use BTA, which is a relatively simple organic molecule, you can change the grain size and make it very much smaller, and the film usually ends up very much smoother. For applications in the microelectronics industry, not one additive, but a whole cocktail is used in order to control the morphology very precisely. So yes, if you like, we are like zoologists studying the wild copper deposition, but you can also tame it to make it, instead of a tiger, to make it a Gaia, something you can get milk from, something useful.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Walter, for giving opportunity to the Physics Department of Lahore College for Women University Lahore to have a talk in our webinar. We will looking forward to see you again.
Thank you very much for the invitation, and it was a pleasure to be able to speak even virtually with my friends and colleagues in Pakistan. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Okay, thanks. At this, we come to end of today's session. These are all talks which we have today. We are looking forward to see you all participants tomorrow, the second day of the webinar. Have a very nice day today and goodbye.